And I talk about this one is from my recent reading, writing, and thinking and the research. And most of all is try to share my experience with you. So it's not really a talk, it's a sharing of a good time. So basically it's about evolution and human psychology. And I will introduce you some of my new ideas, and I actually steal from various books and articles. And part of myself is to put them together and to rethink about nature and the value of nature to us. And I will specifically, it's too small to talk about environmental and evolutionary psychology. This is Marty's specialty. She's not here today. Evolutionary aesthetics has been talked about, but really has not bloomed. And evolutionary healing and medicine, evolutionary environmental healing has been a more or less like a folk practice. But I feel like it's a time about to be the mainstream, the practice. And environmental medicine, I would call. It's a perhaps a future direction, one of the future directions we can do. And finally, nature-provoked spirituality, and that's something that relatively little known among us. So I will focus on these aspects. First of all, I want you to put a price tag there. Does anybody know this picture? How much is that? When it was sold about slightly over a year ago. $2 or $3? Great.
2.5 million.
Do you like it? 2.5 million. Is it good valuation? Is this a good valuation? Does anybody know the title of this painting? Scream. Everybody knows the scream. And another one. Do you like it? How many of you like this one? About 20-30%. Hey, in comparison, this one. Does anybody know? Have you seen that? What's the title? The title is Number 5. Number 5 by Jackson Pollock. Does anybody like it?
Yes.
How much will you offer to buy? $10. $10. This piece was also auctioned at the auction house Christie's. And if you offer $10, wow, that's great. If you can get it, 2.5 million, that's a fraction of it. These are the two most expensive pieces. For the screen, it was sold for slightly over a year ago. It's for 120 million. Can keep all of us live forever, right? The second piece, number 5 by Jackson Pollock, was sold for 140 million. You needed Donald Trump's wealth to buy. But last year, there were a few more pieces that were sold more than that. Now, do we really like them? Do we really like them? They're expensive. Yeah. Now, here's the modern art. Now, we are in Christie's auction house. And how much would you like to pay given you have Donald Trump's wealth? Don't worry. It's Donald Trump's money. Do we see 1 million? Do we see 1 million? Here's one. 2 million, 2 million, 2 million. Here's one. 3 million, 3 million. 5 million, 5 million. There's another one. 4. Oh, 7 million, 7 million. There's another one. It's Donald Trump's money. I'm sorry to tell Donald Trump, this piece was a real piece. In fact, it was painted by 2 Russian painters by the name of Komer and Melamed. And that was based on a survey in Germany that a picture that Germans don't like. Sorry for Trump, Mr. Trump, you just wasted $10 million. But do we have any judgments, any sense what is good art, what is not? I don't know about it. And these two people actually surveyed many different countries. This is the United States, and they surveyed sort of like Stephen Harvey. We asked 100 people, Americans, and what do they like, that kind of family feud show. And this picture was based on the survey, and they painted based on what the people like or not. So this is Americans' most wanted paintings. And you can see trees, right? Rivers, mountains, blue sky, green field, young people. Hey, watching. and large mammals, the deer. And they not only did it for America, they did it for many different countries. And this is China's most wanted painting. Does it look familiar? Yeah, the buffaloes instead of deer. And trees and blue sky and water, green field. What is this? This is Turkey's most wanted painting. Turkey looks similar, right? And this is, what is this? Just Russia. Russia. You see the bear there at the side. So you know that, right? What is this? There is one clue, actually, you can judge. It's Kenya. So you see the big mammal becomes to what? The hippos. The hippo. The hippo. So these are the so-called the most wanted paintings, the favorite paintings, the folk paintings people like. People like. And they look startlingly similar, right? And you can summarize these commonalities. Well, blue sky, green field. Blue sky, green field. And turn out to be the blue color and green color are the favorite for vast number of people. The most favorite color. Bodies of water and trees, not only trees, branched trees. They got to have branches there. And large mammals, the people, especially young people. And historically important figures. They did several dozen, and they turn out to be very similar. So we have commonality. We have a tremendous amount of commonalities as to what we like versus what we don't. Now, which also means, we have something in common. Something in common. And this led to a study by Gordon Oriens. How many of you studied biology in college in the 80s? In the 80s. Probably the textbook used was, at that time, was written by him. University of Washington professor, Gordon Oriens. I somehow bumped into him a few years ago, a great person to talk with. And I studied his book as well in college. And he wrote this book called Snake Sunrises and Shakespeare. And basically, he talked about one research he did is showing people tree crowns and see what is most appealing. Which one, among all these, which one you feel appealing to you?
Column.
The column ones, right? How about anything else?
Pyramid.
The pyramid ones. What else?
Layered.
The layered. Wow. The layered, the ones with the broad crowns, right? The wide crowns, right? That was they discovered. The trees with wide crowns are the most favored. Acacia tree on savanna, African savanna area. That's where our ancestors evolved, and we still have this natural preference for the trees with wide crown. And this is not surprisingly. How many of you like Japanese gardens? Hey, look at that. All these trees are shaped with wide crowns. And even the small ones are shaped like that. So pretty much in terms of preference, Japanese garden hits the jackpot of our preference perception. And we know that the Japanese maple is one of the most popular garden trees, right? And that's a typically white crown tree. And in fall, you can see that just beautiful. Now, why do we have this preference? Yeah, we have the kind of innate preference. And such a kind of preference often are exploited by painters. Thinking that we may think that, well, yeah, we have cameras all the time. We pull out this cell phone and just snap a few. Photos will never be able to completely replace painting. Why? Because painters can actually specially create object. The combination of color, combination of objects actually particularly appealing to our eyes. And that is something not easy for photography. And one of the painters which I like a lot is by the name of Henri Rousseau, who was considered a post-impressionist painter. But he was really good in putting up a color and object to appeal to our eyes. The other day I was talking with Carrie, next year we could have Darwin's t-shirt like that. We will drive up the sale, right? The sales over there. And this was done, the first picture was done by the name of Django in 1908, was before he died. And the second one, even better looking one, was done in 1910, just before he died. It's just beautiful. Can we understand from scientific standpoint that why these pictures are appealing to our eyes? How many of you think that these pictures are beautiful? Yes, virtually consensus. Yeah, consensus. Can we understand from scientific standpoint that they are appealing? You can do something, right? The easiest thing you can do is Photoshop. You look at our RGB distribution, these histograms, and I did actually. And I need a control, right? I need a control. So I pull out another painting by Rousseau. This is a goofy one. And you see that the name is football players. And this is a goofy one, and then much less appealing in terms of color. And I did it with the Photoshop with RGB spectral distributions. Now, question for you: which one is this goofy one? Which one corresponds to that goofy one? A, B, or C? How many of you will say A? How many of you will say B? How many of you would say C? Crowd is always correct. Crowd is always correct when you go to shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, right? You ask the crowd. B is correct. You can see that even just by a glance, B is totally different. And that tells us something that we really can look into and judge the quality of painting, probably not fully, by looking at how the colors are put together. This is not to mention there are objects as well. There should be ways to do that.
What do those peaks represent?
These are the distribution of three primary colors: the red and green and blue, corresponding to our three cones in our retina. So we can actually see how these colors distributed and what the perception be, whether we like it or not, at least partially. So something for artists and biologists to collaborate, and probably psychologists as well, to collaborate on. And the reason why we have innate preference was proposed by this guy, E.O. Wilson, everybody knows, right? The biophilia hypothesis proposed in the 1990s. And recently there is a newer version. And basically, that hypothesis says that humans have an innate affiliation with nature due to our evolutionary connection of our past. We evolved from nature, right? So that's exactly the biophilia hypothesis is. But can we collect some evidence to support it? There are many, many pieces. I just highlight some of them. The first is pets. Our connection with the pets is just incredible. How much money have you spent on your pets? Don't tell anybody, okay? Yeah. Feeding them, taking them to vets, take care of them. So how much time? And this is a list of top 10 American favorite pets. Dogs, cats, always. Hamsters, fish, mice, guinea pigs, birds, snakes, iguanas, and ferrets. And turn out to be Europeans show similar preference, and Asians as well, and many different places, as long as the pets are freely allowed to be kept. So we have this convergence. We like pets. But why do we like these pets? What can pets do to us? Well, when we are sick, this is one of the best comfort. By the way, that little cute cat is called the Scottish Fold, which is my favorite. It's my favorite. And for autistic children, there is nothing better than a nice dog as a companion to relieve the symptoms. So this is something that we can think about. The sick and the dying, you give them a little bunny, they feel the comfort that nothing else can be replaced. But sometimes you don't really need a real animal as pet. And you just stitch some cloth together, put some black dots and white muzzle there, looks like something, and people will feel warm and cuddly. And don't use that for Valentine's Day, because that's not real. That's not real. But yeah, that's some kind of feeling that can stimulate in us. So our connection with animals are deep, are truly deep. And this is another wonderful example was from Nelson Mandela's experience. Nelson Mandela, since 1962, spent 28 years in 4 prisons in South Africa. When he finally got out and got free, he was totally mentally and physically at the verge of breaking down. And people, his friends, arranged him to spend some time, a few months, in this area, Londolozi Game Reserve, to recover and recuperate, to fight another day against apartheid. So at that time, he actually recovered very quickly. He wrote many, many enduring lines, such as this one, my favorite. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Everybody has a down time, you know. Sometimes things don't go along our way. Sometimes it feels bad, you know. This is the kind of encouragement we all need. And along the Londolozi, you could see 4 of these savanna white crown trees, and leopards and rivers and everything. That's just beautiful. Another example I would use is by this lady by the name of Cheryl Strayed. How many of you have read this book, Wild? Do you like it? Yeah. At the time, in the late 90s, and this Cheryl Strayed's mother died from cancer, and her marriage did not work out, and she was totally stressed, feeling like life is meaningless. And that was the time somehow she hit an idea to walk the Pacific Crest Trail from San Diego area all the way to BC. And the book is full of these. Twisting stories and nothing related to. I get inspiration from nature. That does not sell well, looks like. But in fact, she did. And when she completed this trail, she was a totally different person. She summoned up the courage again to live and to be challenged. So she was totally different. And she wrote that book afterwards as well. as well. And now with the movie made about 2 years ago, played by Reese Witherspoon, this is, if you have not read the book, you can watch the movie. But the whole thing, neither the book nor the movie actually mentioned that she got inspiration from nature. But in fact, she was completely. Another person that was even weird by the name of Elizabeth Bailey. She got a metabolic disease due to a rare mitochondrial mutation. She was bedridden for many years. Friends and relatives went to see her, but still, most of the time, she was alone, and she was lonely. And she somehow got comfort by being attached with an animal. Guess what was that? What was that?
Bunny.
Bunny? Bunny is a good guess. What else? How many of you heard about that story? Have heard about the story? No? No? You would never guess what she was attached to. It's a simple woodland snail, very common woodland snail. She compared her life with a snail's life and everything. And she wrote a book, beautifully written, a very small book. You can finish it in a day, a few hours. I did not realize that book until my son Orion told me, "That's a good book, Dad. You have to read that." And I did in a few hours. It's a beautifully written, a wonderful story. I suggest you to read. And then, we look at this big picture, and what is this? Central Park, right? New York City. And you think about New York City, $2 million only buy you a small apartment in New York City. And still, New Yorkers would vote to keep this Central Park from being developed. It's an economical suicide. It's an economical insanity. Because you can make so much money, why do you keep that? Unless it is something else people feel desperately in need of. In the summer, in the spring, yes, they see it as part of their life. And in fall, the beautiful pictures and fall foliages. In winter, lots of people show up. Like this winter. They feel this is essential. No matter how much money it is worth, they would never sell to developers. So this is more than money. In whether it is in Seattle or in Florida or in New Orleans, waterfront properties are always much more expensive. Why? People want to have a piece of nature. So that's our reality. And people in cities especially are busy, no time, hard work, and they have to stay fit, right? They go to these state-of-art gyms with good facility. And these are poor people because their souls are not saved. In city, you could only do that physically, you can be fit. Mentally, you are not. You could do this in our area easily. This is a better activity. And you should do this. Go biking or fishing. Paul would be happy. And bird watching, Jerry would be happy. And just lying around watching the sky and watching the clouds flying. And this is a picture from the Cloud Appreciation Society. I don't know who is a member, but it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It says much about what we want, what we need, essentially. And I show you some of the main results that have been documented again, and again. And in one of the books you may want to read was by Richard Love, and it's called The Last Child in the Woods. And it summarizes many of the discoveries upon at that time. And one of the interesting results is that interacting with nature can make children relieve anxiety, stress, depression, suffer less behavioral disorders, and enjoy higher self-esteem and popularity. And I am a shameless practitioner for that. And just then you view a picture of natural landscape for just 5 minutes, it can actually make you relax, feel relaxed in terms of pulse and muscle tension. So that's the reason you need a good natural picture as your screensaver, all right? Your screensaver, good reason. You really, sometimes you just don't need that kind of fancy stuff. Just having a tank of fish and watch fish for a few minutes a day, it will make you lower your blood pressure and feel less stressed. It's just so important. Do that, okay, do that. And just look at any piece of nature such as rivers, woods, and meadows actually can actually reduce your fatigue, makes you more productive, creative, and more focused. More focused. That's nice, right? And from biological discoveries, if you spend a few hours in the woods, actually your anti-cancer immune proteins, more of them will be made, so as to make your body healthy, more disease resistant. These are startling discoveries that we were not sure even a decade ago. And patients spend some time in woods would recover after surgery, would recover a lot faster in woods with natural views, with trees. So on the top, that is something that if your loved ones got sick, got surgery, you would like to put them in. On the bottom, this is I downloaded that from mexicohealth.com. They showed the people, yeah, we have state-of-art facility. It's a wonderful one. This is exactly you don't want to be. There's no window, no trees, nothing. It's just that you are stuck there, and you will not recover fast enough. So this is not something you want to spend time in. Gardening has been used as a healing method since time immemorial. In ancient China and in the East, Taoist has been using that for millennia. And in the West, at least for many centuries, gardening has been used as a healing method for lots of conditions. And of course, nature inspires us, right? You look at Walter Whitman's Leaves of Grass. This is a piece of it. Keep your splendid, silent sun, keep your woods, all nature, and the quiet places by the woods. Keep your fields of clover and timothy, and your cornfields and orchards. Keep the blossoming buckwheat fields where the 9-month bees hum. It's just a beautiful piece. And America has a great tradition of enjoying nature, since especially this transcendentalist philosophers such as Henry David Thoreau. And he wrote that when I consider that the nobler animals have been exterminated here, the cougar, the panther, lynx, wolverine, wolf, bear, moose, deer, and the beaver, I will come back to beaver, the turkey, and so forth, I cannot but feel as if I lived in a tamed land, immaculated country. That's the word he put down. It looks like this is painting a picture about Woodland Pond, where Thoreau lived in Massachusetts. It looks like a beaver pond to me. And even more interesting, that Emerson, who was a lot more academically achieved, wrote down to adopt a piece of nature. Her secret is patience. And I followed his advice closely, and snapping pictures around my house pretty easily, right? Just be patient. And this is the sunrise, and this is around time of sunset, and this is a wonderful evening. I put together. And when I snapped this wonderful evening, I was so happy that I was unable to go to sleep. Do you know why? Anybody why? Does this remind you of something familiar? Yes, that's right. Exactly. That's the multi-million-dollar Van Gogh's painting of the starry sky. And then Van Gogh lost an ear to get that inspiration. For me, see, it's just so easy. Patience pays. Emerson's advice works well, for me at least. And in my life, I worked on many different animals. Some of them are quite glamorous. Anybody know this one? Water deer, you have never seen that. I do not assume you have seen that. But this is a male. It's about 30 to 40 pounds male with long tusks without antlers. It's a very strange one. And you know this one, right? Red panda, yeah. I worked on that. And even bigger, the giant panda. That cub was playing with me the other day. And, of course, macaques recently. But these are wonderful animals, but I appreciate a more common animal, that is, the beaver. Now, coming to the beaver, I have so much to tell that it needs 10 talks like this. Sorry, 10 talks, but I just make the long story short. And just, there are so many things you can discover. How they cut that big tree, and how they built this 6 feet tall lodges. And when I began to work on that, when people were teasing with me that, oh, Lixing, yeah, if you want to work on animal, you have to show us that you can hold that animal. But that is a beaver. But actually, it wasn't that difficult. I did. One day, and this is a bigger one, 59 pounds. 59 pounds. I have never heard of people who told me that they caught a bigger one. Bigger one. So I think this is the record. I still feel that way. But you know, there are so many questions you can ask. You know, that was my goofy picture when I was a lot younger with mustache. And with or without mustache, you know, you always have questions to ask. But even when beavers are not doing anything, you sit at a beaver pond, you actually enjoy the quiet moment, the beauty of beaver ponds. So it's a very enjoyable thing. Historically, beavers actually were associated with the establishment or during the colonial time and the colonial time of the economy, the beaver pelt trading and the beaver fur trading. And this was a person, probably none of you have heard about, Jedediah Smith, who was an unsung explorer who came from Midwest and exploring American West in the 1820s. And what he discovered was this one. What is this? Yosemite was a big deal, right? When John Muir, 20 years later, John Muir went to California and rediscovered the Yosemite. John Muir wanted to make it as a national park, the first national park. But when the Yosemite was approved to be the national park by Grant, it was too late. Yellowstone was the first already. All right, so that was not the first. But John Muir walked to so many different places. He wrote beautiful prose, and volumes after volumes. He mentioned so many animals, plants, except the obvious, beaver. He never mentioned anything like a beaver. Probably he had never seen any beaver in his life. And I searched around why. That was a question for a long time. And one time I found a picture. John Muir was sitting there in front of a beaver pond. How could he miss the most obvious? I raised that question in a talk last year, around this time, in Oregon, to a beaver conference, and there was a guy sitting there. He told me, Lixing, don't worry about it, because at that time the trappers were all over. All beavers had been trapped out. It was unlikely for John Muir to find beavers in California. So the puzzle solved. But John Muir was recognized as American environmental prophecy. He was the first to advocate for environmentalism and for protection of environment, for the enjoyment of environment. And when you read his writings, it's just sheerly beautiful prose and inspiring prose. And I tried to follow that footstep and enjoy it a great deal. And I look at the picture, enjoy the beaver pond. This is during the flooding season in April in New York, in Western New York. You will see ladders of these beaver dams over there. It's just incredible to see how they did that. And this is a dam. This was a dam. I saw it starting from a small section. Over the 4 years, it began to expand until it reached 800 feet, over 200 yards, the largest I've ever seen. Until a few years ago, people sent me pictures saying that, wow, we saw a longer beaver dam in Canada from satellite. It was a lot bigger, a lot bigger. But this was the longest before that I've seen. Yeah. And even, you just sit near the beaver pond and you watch what beavers do. They build the lodges and they cut trees down and drag them into the pond and eat them. That is really, really a curiosity inspiring. You have so many things, so many questions to ask. That's a wonderful time. And in Richmond, you see, this is a place, this is a picture taken in Norway, in fact. You look at the back, there's some kind of industrial activity going on. This is a really, really desolate, ugly place. But once you have a beaver lodge there, it suddenly changes. It's getting interesting, right? Otherwise, the industrial area, that's just dusty and dirty and littered everywhere and things. And if you have a small pond with beaver lodge there, it's getting interesting. So, and that kind of, I often dream of sitting at a beaver pond, watching the mist coming down, descending to the pond. It's a really, really quiet and memorable moment that it occurs again and again in reality and in my dream as well. And you look at the peaceful coexistence of many different species. The Canada geese, the tree frogs. This is a rare form, okay? Probably you have never seen tree frogs with this color. But think about the sound around the beaver pond in the evening. And that is really, make you feel really nice and surreal. And just these irises pictures, these dripping green ferns makes you feel calm, feel how beautiful nature would be. And sometimes during the mating season, you see the suckers. These are white suckers, just full of beaver ponds, and snapping turtle eggs. And in the winter, you could see that little critters living on the second floor of the beaver lodge. So this is nice. And of course, beaver ponds would provide endless opportunities for kids to explore, to enjoy, to learn, and developing their knowledge. And even for college kids, you can study this ecosystem dominated the beaver landscape. In the middle, there is a beaver pond and a beautiful background as well, and for generations to enjoy. And the most interesting thing was in 2007, I suddenly got a call from the New Yorker, the magazine, right? Everybody knows that, right? The New Yorker, and the guy called me and said, "Hi, Dr. Sun, there's good news for you. We have a beaver in New York City." well, what's the fuss in New York City? He said, well, see, New York City has not had beaver for how long? Generations. And there is a beaver now, he told me. There's a beaver now for a generation. And they named the beaver Jose. You laughed too early. For a reason, Jose Serrano was the Bronx congressman who secured $15 million from federal government to clean up the well-polluted, badly polluted river over in New York City. And that's the reason beaver came back. That was the reason. So for a good reason, Jose the beaver. But for these people who have never seen beaver before, even for generations, never seen before, that was an excitement, right? So you can take pictures with beaver, although not real, and you can do other things with the beaver. These poor New Yorkers, really, really, really badly needed this piece of nature. And they've never seen that before. So, yeah, and then looking back, when we look at the beaver for their historical importance, the ecological keystone species, everybody knows, right? Otherwise, you have to retake biology. 181, all right. And now I emphasize the psychological value in here and the spiritual value as well. And does beaver have any economic value? You can sell a beaver pelt for $10. It is not worth it. But who cares? You look at these psychological, ecological, and spiritual values, they are far, far larger than its economic value. And that is what we are about. So we here together with me to rediscover this nature. Nature is essential for our physical and mental well-being. It's essential, not optional. It's a popular source of inspiration for creativity and a spiritual result. And I would suggest stop using the mushy, toothless word, recreation, for nature-related activities. I think for those of you who come from Fish and Wildlife or Park and Recreational Service, you have to think about changing the name. Changing these names, all right? Make it more essential. It's essential need. So you look at the evolutionary history, look at our connection with our world. We are not just the physical beings, individuals. We also need what? Social connections. This is the topic I save for next Darwin's lecture, all right? And we need nature to complete the entire humanity. Otherwise, we are not really human. We are just a moving flesh. We don't have content, the rich content of our social network and our natural component. So that is the message I would like you to share. Hope after today, you will not think about nature as before. We'll be seeing nature totally differently. Thank you very much. And happy birthdays to Charles Darwin, who started all the troubles.